What is up, guys? This is Kyurem from the Trinity of Lift, and today I'm bringing all of you guys my Chaos Dragon Shaddoll deck profile, Post-CROS Souls format. So, I have been playing Star Seraph Shaddolls for quite some time, ever since Star Seraphs came out in the TCG, and I really just wanted to just change up my Shaddoll list for the fact that I was sort of starting to get bored of the Star Seraph variant because, again, I have been playing it for quite some time. So, after snooping around on the YouTubes for a little bit, I actually stumbled upon a Chaos Dragon Shaddoll deck profile, and I really did take a lot of inspiration from it. And I just made some changes just for my personal taste, and it actually has been working out very good for me. It has been very fun actually due to the fact that it just has a very different playstyle than what I was, I guess you could say, used to with my old Shaddoll list. And so it's just a really fun variant of Shaddolls, and I am bringing that to you guys today. So let's get right into it, starting off with the main deck, of course. So we're going to start off with the Shaddolls, of course, as usual. So we're starting off with the two copies of Shaddoll Beast, obviously because he is your draw power, the thing you'll be wanting to summon off of Falco majority of the time. And in general, he is just the one that will help you get through your deck as quick as you possibly can. So we do run the two Beasts. Following him, we have two copies of Shaddoll Squamata. Now, I usually would run 3 Squamata in any deck because of the fact that he is essentially an upstart goblin for this deck. But the fact is that we are running a Lightsworn engine in this deck, so 3 Squamata wasn't as necessary to help us dig through our deck for the fact that the Lightsworns will naturally get us through our deck anyway. So, just for space constraints and whatnot, I did decide to cut Squamata down to 2. Next up, we have the 3 copies of Shaddoll Falco. Of course, we have the 3 Falco here because Falco is the one that will help us in our grind game, and he is the one that will help us get our Shaddolls back from our graveyard. So that's also really nice, as well as he is our level 2 Dark Tuner of this deck. Following that, we have the 2 copies of Shaddoll Hedgehog, because Hedgehog will help us see our fusions as early as we possibly can. And then finally, we have the last Shaddoll, which is the 1 copy of Shaddoll Dragon. And I have decided to cut Dragon, again, back down to 1, for the fact that if we ever do run into problematic back row, Dragon is not our only option now, as we do have a different option in the form of Lila. And of course, Lila is searchable, so that is why I decided to cut Dragon down to 1, because of Lila's existence. So that will round off our Shaddoll lineup for this specific Shaddoll variant. Now then, moving on to the Chaos Dragon aspect of this deck, we start off with the 2 copies of Light Pulsar Dragon. Now, this Chaos Shaddoll deck, I guess you could say, won't function as traditional Chaos Shaddoll decks would, as majority of Chaos Shaddolls will be running the baby dragons. But in this specific variant of Chaos Dragon Shaddolls, I did decide to run the big dragons for the fact that Light Pulsar can really just put damage onto board very fast due to the fact that he is a very easily summonable 2500 stick, and it just really helps with the aggression of this deck, and it also just helps you get back some of your dragons that might be sent to grave. So that is why we do run the 2 Light Pulsar Dragon. Then, for the other Chaos Dragon-y kind of monsters, we have the 1 copy of Red Eye's Darkness Metal, we have the 1 Dark Armed, and we have the 1 Eclipse Wyvern to search them out. Of course, Eclipse is here to search out the Dark Arm and the Red Eyes, like I said. Dark Arm is here because he is ridiculous, and he just really can open up your plays to just massive OTKs, which is really cool. And then we have Red Eyes here to just help us get things like our Light Pulsars back, as well as get some of our key Synchros back from our graveyard. So that is the last parts of our Chaos Dragon aspect of this deck. Moving on to the other parts of the deck, we start off with the Lightsworn engine. Now, we start our Lightsworn engine off with 3 copies of Raiden, Hand of the Lightsworn, because he is the one that will be getting us our milling down from our deck, as he does essentially mill us 4 cards every turn he's on the board. So that's also really nice, as well as he is our level 4 tuner of the deck, and he is the one that will help us get into our level 7 synchros majority of the time. Following that, we have our 3 copies of Lumina Lightsworn Summoner, because of the fact that Lumina gets our Lightsworns back from grave. And usually, if we do have a Raiden in grave, we can just Lumina for the Raiden and just make a level 7 Synchro right there, like I said with Raiden, as he is the level 7 Synchro spammer guy. And I will note that Lumina also really can just help you get your dead cards out of your hand, as I know I find myself drawing into that one copy of Eclipse Wyvern quite often for some odd reason. So it's also nice to have Lumina here to just help alleviate your slower and or dead hands. Following that, we have two more Lightsworns in the form of one copy of Aaron Lightsworn Monk, and then one copy of Lila Lightsworn Sorceress. Now, we have Lila in here, like I said, with Dragon. She is our other back row removal, and that is searchable, so that is why we do have the one Lila for anything like lose one turn and all those scary stuff. And then we also have the one Aaron Lightsworn Monk in here for the fact that it is a Jin out that is searchable, and because of the fact that I do not run as many Jin outs in this deck as I do with other decks, I guess you could say, I did decide to run Aaron just to have a searchable Jin out. So this will round off our Lightsworn lineup. Finally, we have our last three monsters, which are our Chaos Boss monsters. We have our one BLS and the two copies of Chaos Sorcerer. Now, any Chaos deck in any way, shape, or form should be running these guys, because these guys are the ones that gave Chaos its namesake after all. So we do run these guys just to have some easy banish removal and just some easily summonable beat sticks. So that will be rounding off our monster lineup. Moving on to the spell cards, we're going to jump right into our Shaddoll Fusion cards. We start off with the three copies of Shaddoll Fusion. Now, I have went back to 3 Shaddoll Fusion in this list for the fact that this version of Shaddolls very much is a rogue variant of it. So because of that, I guess you could say I wanted to try and get more into the rogue theme and just run the 3 Shaddoll Fusion, as, again, with the rogue theme, Shaddoll Fusion does really help in those rogue matchups, as well as just really, it's just a fairly good fusion spell in general. So that is why we do run the 3 Shaddoll Fusion. Then, following that, we have the 3 copies of El Shaddoll Fusion, because this is probably the most superior Shaddoll Fusion, although, again, Shaddoll Fusion is no slacker. But yeah, El Shaddoll Fusion is also really great because of the fact that it is a quick play, and it just gives us some reactivity in this deck on our opponent's turn. Next up, we have our 2 copies of Charge of the Light Brigade and our 2 copies of Solar Recharge to round off our Lightsworn-based spell cards. Now, Charge of the Light Brigade is here, obviously, because it is the thing that will search out our Lightsworn monsters from our deck to our hand. And then we have Solar Recharge in here just because of the fact that we do have 8 Lightsworns in our deck, so we can afford to actually run Solar Recharge. And we can use, again, Solar Recharge to just help us accelerate through our deck and just really start digging for stuff like our fusion spells or our big chaos monsters and whatnot. Following that, we have our one of spells. We start off with the one Foolish Burial, because Foolish can just really help you get specific cards that you might want into your graveyard. Things like Shaddolls Squamata and Eclipse Wyvern are just sometimes really essential to send to grave, as of course Eclipse can search you out your big Chaos Dragon monsters, and Squamata can just really help you get your Shaddolls. So having Foolish Burial in here just really helps you just get different sorts of advantage without relying on the randomness of milling. So having this specific, I guess you could say, milling is really helpful at times. So that is why we do run the one Foolish. Following that, we have the one Soul Charge, because we do mill quite a bit and we will be milling our monsters a lot. So having ways to just summon them all back one time is really powerful. Finally, for the last spell card we do run the one copy of Raigeki, because clearing boards is always fun. And due to the nature of this Chaos Dragon deck and how very aggressive it is, having Raigeki here to just clear your opponent's board and just have the ability to sometimes spontaneously push for game is really fun. So that is it for the spells, and then for the singular trap that we do run one copy of Shaddoll Core. This is, I guess you could say, fairly mandatory in this specific build of Shaddolls, for the fact that you will inevitably be milling your Shaddoll Fusion cards. So having ways to just recycle your Fusion cards that you might have milled is just a really simple and easy way to just recycle your Fusions back. As again, like I said, you will inevitably be sending some of them to the graveyard at points. So again, that's why we do have the one core, just to help us with that recyclability. Now, that will be rounding off our 40-card main deck. Moving on to the fusions and synchros and whatnot. We're going to start off with our 3 copies of El Shaddoll Nephilim, because Nephilim is the best one, obviously. She is the one that you're going to be going into most often. And I probably have talked about this card about a million times by now on this channel. So, yay, El Shaddoll Nephilim, my favorite fusion of all time. Next up, we have the one copy of El Shaddoll Winda, and I guess you could say this is fairly far from the standard, as I know the standard 2 Winda is what every Shaddoll deck is running. But the fact is that I just really don't feel that Winda is as useful as she is anymore, due to the fact that Necros really don't need to special summon more than once if they can just summon Trishula right away. So I found the effectiveness of Winda to be fairly lower than what it used to be. So that is again why I have cut it down to 1. Following that, we have our other El Shaddolls in the form of 1 Shekinaga and 1 copy of El Shaddol Onoya Tylis. Now, we won't be making these people often. They're just in here just for those happenstance moments where we do have the ability to summon core. But again, because of their very, very good effects, it never really hurts to just have them in the extra deck, just in case you run into those times when you can summon core and use it as a fusion card. So that will round off our fusion lineup. Moving on to our Synchro lineup, which is pretty much majority of the rest of the extra deck. We start off with the 1 copy of Goyo Guardian for our level 6 Synchro, because probably this is the best level 6 Synchro around. Although, again, you can make a case for HTS Psychemius, but in my opinion, Goyo is probably better in more situations. Then we have 3 level 7 Synchros in the form of 1 Clearing Synchro Dragon, 1 Black Rose Dragon, and 1 Michael. Now, Clearing is here for just easy effect negation, Black Rose is here for general board nuking, and the Michael is here for spot banish removal, which can be really, really strong, as well as Michael can mill cards too, which is really, really nice. And really, these are just probably the best level 7 Synchros in the game, or at least really high up there, and since this deck can make them, it's just really, really nice to have access to them. Following that, we have 3 level 8 Synchros in the form of 1 Void Ogre Dragon, 1 Beals of the Diabolic Dragons, and then 1 Scrap Dragon. Now, we have the 1 Scrap Dragon here to act as our fairly generic level 8 Synchro. And we have the Beals and the Void Ogre for the fact that we have the 3 copies of Falco, as well as Light Pulsar Dragon and Chaos Sorcerer. So that in and of itself gives us access to the 2 very, very strong dark Synchro monsters, which is the Void Ogre and the Beals. So because we can make them, and they are very, very strong at times, we should run them, because again, their effects are just really, really good, especially Void Ogre nowadays, due to the fact how majority of the high tier decks are fairly spell reliant. So having the stun aspect from Void Ogre Dragon is also really, really good. Finally, we have 2 more Synchros, which are our Hugeangus Massive Beater, massive, huge level Synchros. They are the 1 copy of Star Eater and the 1 copy of Leo. Now, Star Eater is here just to have some sort of Apocryphal Towers out, as nowadays I'm finding myself playing Clyford a lot more, and I really do not want to take an auto loss because they have summoned Apocryphal Towers successfully. So I do have the 1 Star Eater to help us out it as much as we possibly can. And then we have the Leo in here to just be more of a general high-level Synchro, as probably between the 2, I will be making Leo the most often. But again, having Star Eater for the Apocryphal Towers out is never bad either. So, that will be rounding off my Chaos Dragon Shaddoll deck profile. I hope you all did enjoy, and a little disclaimer I should say, I will be filming another video right as soon as I'm done uploading this to YouTube, and that will be the next episode of Path to Perfection, so I hope you guys all stay around for that today too. So, again, I hope you all did enjoy, and as always, this is Kyurem from the Trinity of Lift, and I'll see all of you guys later. Peace.